Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. It's always a joy right at the top of our sharing to remind you of the great presence within you, that Holy Spirit presence, your best friend, at the very center of your being, with whom you are one. Reflect on that today, as you are one with the Holy Spirit of life itself. Also, happy Father's Day to those of you who are fathers. Also reminding all of us that our souls chose our parents for the best experience, the best possibility that we could have in life. Such an important thing for us to understand. Also, if you're able to join us tonight, very happy to have you join us for our What is Life Body from 7 to 8:30. Let's begin. My dear friends, it's been a great joy to share with you the teachings of the past 6 weeks. A change not just in vocabulary from a third-dimensional to a fifth-dimensional set of words, but rather a change in our style of living. It is precisely this change of living that I want to address in a series of teachings that will focus on a very important issue. This issue is best presented in the form of a question that is good for all of us to ask occasionally on our spiritual journey. The perplexing question is this: why is it that while I am making spiritual progress, that I simply am not making the spiritual progress that I would really like to? It seems like I know all of the concepts. It seems like I know all of the answers, and I know how to practice, but sometimes when I go to practice, I seem to come up short. And just when I really think that I have everything down, something arises, it just puts me into a tiz. I have reflected on this problem for many years, both for myself and for others, and I feel that I have the right answer, that it will take a little more attention, a little more effort on your part. I will begin today's teaching with 2 descriptive analogies that will present the problem more clearly. Proceed to mention the general solution, and then begin to solve the problem of today's teaching entitled Taming the Horse. Taming the Horse. See if, in fact, this might be exactly what you need. Let's begin with a couple of analogies. The first analogy appeared somewhere in the 16th century and is said in these words: "Don't put the cart before the horse." The meaning is obvious. The horse pulls the cart and must be given priority. The problem that arises, however, is that oftentimes we put too much attention on the cart. We put too much attention on the package. We put too much attention on the way we want to live, and we forget about the horse. We forget about the horse that has to do the pulling. I think that you're beginning to get the point. The horse that does the pulling is your personality self. It is that horse that has to pull the cart. And it's not just in a sense trying to pull the cart, but to preparing itself so that it can pull the cart. So many of us still seem to be not quite so ready to have our horse, the personality self, to pull the cart. More preparation is needed for the personality self to be able to pull the cart of our spiritual ascension. The second descriptive analogy was made popular by Frank Sinatra in the 50s song, Love and Marriage. I think we all pretty much remember the lyrics. Love and marriage go together like a horse, and carriage. But then comes the interesting words. You can't have one without the other. How true these words are. You can't have one without the other when it comes to our spiritual progress. It seems like our carriage is bright and shiny at times. We have all of the spiritual ideas we need to carry us into the future, but it's that damn horse again. Again, that damn horse being the personality self that just does not seem at times to be up to the pulling. And as the song says, you can't have one without the other. You can't have a strong spiritual growth without the personality self doing its part. It's the horse, the personality self, that is the wild card. It's the personality self that is often untamed. Untamed. So the question arises then, how do you tame that personality self? It's a good question, is it not? And I believe that I have a clear answer for you. But before I share it, let me make an opening comment or two. First, let's not be too hard on the personality self. Your present personality self has been dragged through hundreds of past incarnations by your soul to play the game of separation. And now that the soul is ready to make a change to be realigned with the source, the personality self has to play catch up. The personality self has to play catch up to release all of the old separation patterns of fear and worry that have been housed in the mental, emotional, and physical bodies of our past incarnations, as well as in the lower energies in our present personality self that has been susceptible to our parents, society, and even religion itself. In a word, the personality self has a lot of baggage. It's somewhat easy for the soul to simply say, let's realign, putting the cart and the carriage before the horse. While your personality self still seems to be that untamed horse as it tries to adapt to the new promptings of the soul. I think you get the picture. A second comment. Your personality self has done a pretty good job so far, considering all of the baggage it has had. Your personality self has released. Your personality self has released much of its old baggage, kind of enjoying its own Boston Tea Party, getting rid of all of that stuff. Releasing the old views of mother, father, teacher, preacher that sometimes still are in your head. And not only releasing what doesn't belong anymore, but also developing new physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual habits, such as not reacting too quickly to things in life, being more patient as a listener, thinking logically from one idea to another, honoring one's feelings. And the biggest change for most of us, sitting still, quieting the mind. So kudos to the personality self for the progress it has made. You have tamed much of the old horse that has to do the pulling. With these two comments clearly in mind, we're now ready to give a clear answer as to why I sometimes feel that perhaps I am not making sufficient spiritual progress. Just one more time, taking a look at taming the personality self even more. The answer comes from many spiritual traditions, Hinduism, Christianity, Plato, Aristotle, Course in Miracles, Rudolf Steiner. In a nutshell, the answer to the perplexing problem of taming the personality self is called moral preliminaries. Moral preliminaries. By moral preliminaries is meant all the personality self qualities that have to be in place to make spiritual progress. I'll repeat that again. By the moral preliminaries, we mean all of the qualities of the personality self that have to be in place to make spiritual progress. And as I said, all the good spiritual traditions have such a program. The one that I favor the most, however, the one that I kind of like the best, is in the Buddhist tradition. It is called the Eightfold Path. Let me give a very brief introduction. In Buddhism, there are considered to be 4 noble truths that one must know. It is such a clear and succinct teaching. The first noble truth is to know that human life is filled with suffering. That's pretty clear. The second noble truth, you can overcome that suffering by learning to get rid of the desires that cause the suffering. The third noble truth is you can extinguish all of those sufferings and desires. And the fourth noble truth is the instruction on how to overcome the sufferings caused by desires. That fourth noble truth is also called the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is simply a list of 8 things that you have to have in place for your personality self to practice any spiritual ascension. The Eightfold Path are the 8 things that the personality self has to be able to understand so that it can pull the cart. It can join with the carriage. The Eightfold Path is what I will now share with you. It is the moral preliminary that I think is most important, and it will help us to tame our personality self. These 8 things must be firmly established within the personality self so that we can pull our cart to spiritual ascension. We need both. We can't have one without the other. The first step on the Eightfold Path is often called your Dharma. Dharma in the sense being knowing who you are, having a clear understanding of your true identity. Now listen close. So let's look at our true identity in 2 ways. The first way has taken us a long time in understanding, but I think with all of the work we have put in, that you and I both understand what our true identity is. We have made the shift. We have made the shift of seeing ourselves simply as a limited 3rd-dimensional personality self to now viewing ourselves as a 5th-dimensional soul spirit. I think you can honestly say to yourself, I realize that I really am a spiritual being having a human experience. You truly realize that the Holy Spirit and the God Spirit are your spirit. You understand that you are the love of God in human form. And you truly mean, as you experience the reality of the following words, I am spirit, and the Holy Spirit is my God. Well, thus you might be saying to yourself, Vince, I know all these things. So what's the big deal about this Dharma? Well, the big deal is we often do not live as we know. We do not show up as our true soul spirit self because that damned, untrained, untamed force of the personality self keeps getting in the way. I think that you would agree. You don't always act on what you know to be true. So why not? Why do you not always act on what you know to be true? That's a good question. I've thought about this. This constitutes our second way many, many, many times. And it always boils down to this. It always boils down to this. Why don't you always do what you know you should do when you want to do? It's because of sloppy thinking on the personality's part. It always boils down to sloppy thinking from the personality self. It's not just that we don't know better, it's just that we don't always do better. And I might say, to our own disappointment. We often say, well, I know better. And yet, I seem to resort to the old behavioral patterns. So it's precisely this idea of sloppy personality thinking that I want to address in 3 areas and then give 3 spiritual antidotes after I make an opening comment. First, the opening comment. Please listen attentively. The human being is a thought being. The human being is a thought being. The human being is founded on consciousness, thinking. Just have to say it again. The human being is a thought being. Although we take it for granted, it is our consciousness, our thinking, that defines us. Thus, the formation of thought, excuse me, the formation of consciousness is of vital importance. And as we often say, if you want to change your life, well, change your thinking. We understand that thoughts are energies. Thoughts are energies that define not only our identity, but also our activities. From a spiritual perspective, our identity is very well established as the conscious, eternal soul spirit that we are. But it is this third dimensional personality mind with its sloppy habits that we need to address. So let's begin with 3 areas of sloppy thinking that often get in the way of our true identity as a spiritual being. The first area of sloppy thinking is loose, indecisive thinking. Loose, indecisive thinking. We often have this tendency of beating around the bush, weighing every little possibility, becoming obsessive in our thinking, making our list of pros and cons. But then putting off our decision to a later time. It's not just a matter of mental procrastination, but rather it's getting into a pattern of becoming indecisive at the moment. We become indecisive when we need to decide. It's not that you don't know what to do, but it becomes a matter of losing confidence in your decision making. It gets loose and sloppy. And once you begin to lose confidence in your decision making, the results snowball. You start putting off more and more of your decisions to the point that you really don't want to decide anything. The second indecisive way of sloppy thinking becomes even worse when we address this second major point. It really boils down to losing your spiritual center of gravity. We get sloppy because we are losing our spiritual center of gravity. This seems to be what happens. Obstacles to your decision making seem to get in the way. At one time, you would have breezed through these obstacles, but now they just seem more monumental. The molehill has become the mountain. The sand in a shoe is blistering your feet, resulting in giving up. I'll just do it later. I know what I should do, but I just can't do it at this time. I'll put it off till later. Or you say indecisively, loosely to yourself, I'll get to it when everything settles down. Well, when in your life has anything settled down to make better decisions? The third area of sloppy personality thinking concerns dealing with solutions that have an emotional energy when dealing with others, an emotional component. There is still that little demon within you of being worried of what other people might think of you in doing something. And even though you say, I really don't care what other people think, you often cave in. You often cave in to the expectations of others. You do what you really don't want to do because you think, well, I should do it. You think perhaps maybe that they will not understand you and your actions, so you decide to acquiesce to their influence, while at the same time being somewhat upset with yourself for doing so. Such behavior is especially true in family situations. It takes a lot to hold your own spiritual identity with so many family members who might gossip about your behavior because they don't understand where you're coming from. Let's now see how we can change these sloppy behaviors. Let's now address the 3 antidotes of sloppy personality thinking that will get us back to our Dharma. The first antidote to sloppy personality thinking is the basis for the other 2. The first antidote to sloppy personality thinking, the first antidote is to learn to think from your heart. To learn to think from your heart, not simply from your limited personality mind. To be able to understand the importance of feeling that what you are doing is the right thing to do. When you come to this conclusion that your thinking must be directed by your sacred heart, your sacred soul spirit, you will clearly come to understand that the heart has reasons the mind knows not of, and that these reasons are the clear guidance for what you need to do. Of course, put this heart thinking to the test. Apply it to concrete situations in your life and allow it to guide you decisively. See for yourself that it will work better than anything else when you follow the feeling of what is the right thing to do from your fifth dimensional self. Which now leads us to the second antidote of sloppy personality thinking. The second antidote is not simply acting decisively, but learning to act with your willpower. With your willpower. Yes, of course, you must do the concrete things that will make up, in a sense, your life being much better. But it's also quite important not to question your decisions, but to bring your willpower to see them through, not to go over them again and again and again. Re-questioning keeps you locked into the path, wondering, am I doing the right thing? Please stop looking backwards. Start looking forward. Let the past go. Move forward with your willpower. Don't just think the future. Will your future. Don't just think the future. Will your future. You are now ready to progress, which brings us to the third antidote of sloppy thinking. Here again, we are so blessed to have two of the 7 living words of Jimself. These 2 words are spiritual pillars for our futures. The first word is the word capable. You are capable of clear, decisive actions. Stop your doubting. You are capable because you have the Holy Spirit at the center of your heart to guide you. You have the Holy Spirit to help you to get out of your limited mind. Allow the Holy Spirit to become the source of your capability. Trust in the Holy Spirit, not your limited mind. Allow your Holy Spirit to be your foundation. Allow the Holy Spirit to help you to do the right thing, that you're quite capable of doing so. Which then leads to the second living word, the word certainty. Let's be clear. You can be absolutely certain of your decisions when you allow the Holy Spirit to be your guide. You can be absolutely certain of your decisions when you allow the Holy Spirit to be your guide. Do you not clearly see that the resolution of all sloppy thinking, is to have your decisions based on the certainty of your Holy Spirit, of which you are quite capable of doing. The resolution to all sloppy thinking is to base more and more of your decisions on the Holy Spirit the certainty of the Holy Spirit, of which you are capable of doing. In conclusion, such living, by following the guidance of the Holy Spirit, is truly the antidote to the sloppy thinking of the personality self. Such guidance by the Holy Spirit tames your wild horse, so that now you will clearly put the horse before the cart. And it is the Holy Spirit that is now pulling your carriage of love, the love of the Holy Spirit. We will continue to examine the next 7 steps in the Eightfold Path. We have made a strong beginning with much more to come. And oh yes, we are pulling together. Let me now invite you to join us in our meditation together. So why don't you do it? A good question for us. Why don't we do what we want to do? Why don't we do what we know to do? Why don't we do what would benefit everyone? Heart is ready to go. The carriage is beautiful. It's this personality self that we need to spruce up, do a better job with. A little fear creeps in. Even before you are sitting down to make a decision, you feel uneasy before you're even sitting down. We have all been through this, and perhaps still are going through it. Doubting not what we know to be true, but doubting our personality self to deliver. It's amazing at times when you have put in so much work to know the presence of the Holy Spirit within you. And a decision comes up. And you know what you should do. You know that following the Holy Spirit is your right thing to do. But yet you still might revert to an old third dimensional personality. This is a very important point for us to consider. Certainly not to elicit blame or guilt or anything like that, but to just take a better look at why we sometimes get sloppy. Perhaps no one else sees it and thinks you're wonderful, but you know within yourself. You just know within yourself. I haven't lived up to what I'm capable of doing. And then, of course, you run the old record of justifying what you did. Rationalizing, ruminating. It's sloppy. Back into an old habit. And allow that old habit of the third dimensional past to take over the vibrancy of your present Holy Spirit awareness. It's developing a better mental vocabulary for yourself. Better mental vocabulary. Holy Spirit, willpower, capable, certain, Holy Spirit, willpower, capable, certain, a new vocabulary as you go forward. We all need to tame the horse so we can pull our carts. the moral preliminaries. These are what we need to get stabilized into the personality zone. That's what we're going to do. So with this solid teaching, let's put a nice, joyful, pleasant energy within ourselves from your sacred heart, and let it move through your entire physiology and certainly onto your face into a nice smile. With certainty and capability and willpower, fueled by the Holy Spirit, let me then invite you to gently breathe your eyes open. I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. And we are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. Namaste.